66 million years ago, a rock the size of a city fell out of the sky. It hit what is now Mexico at 40,000 miles an hour. Within hours, the planet caught fire. Within months, 3/4 of all life on Earth was dead. And that catastrophe, the single worst day this planet has ever seen, is the only reason you're alive to hear about it. Because if that rock had missed, dinosaurs would still rule the Earth, and you would never have been born. So what if it missed? To understand how much hangs on that one moment, you have to understand the world before it. For 165 million years, dinosaurs owned this planet, not shared it, owned it. Every large animal on land, for a stretch of time almost impossible to picture, was a dinosaur. And your ancestors were there the whole time, hiding. For that entire era, mammals existed, but they were small. Most were no bigger than a mouse, scurrying through the underbrush, active only at night, because the daylight world belonged to something with teeth. Paleontologists have a name for this. They call it the nocturnal bottleneck. For 100 million years, mammals were funneled into the dark, evolving to live in a world without sun, because the world with sun would eat them. It's why so many mammals still see in dim and limited color. It's why our hearing and our sense of smell got so sharp. Those aren't upgrades. They're scars, left over from 100 million years spent hiding. This wasn't a species waiting for its moment. This was a species losing for 150 million years, with no sign it would ever win. The paleontologist Steve Broussat has spent his career on this exact transition, and his conclusion is blunt. For the entire age of dinosaurs, mammals were bit players, extras in someone else's story. Nothing about that world suggested it would ever change. And on its own, it never would have. But to understand what almost never happened, you have to understand what actually did. You have to understand the day the sky fell. For a long time, nobody knew what killed the dinosaurs. Then in 1980, a physicist named Luis Alvarez, who had already won a Nobel Prize, and his son Walter, a geologist, found something they couldn't explain. In a thin layer of clay laid down at the exact moment the dinosaurs vanished, all over the world they found iridium. Iridium is rare on the surface of the Earth, but it's common in asteroids. And there it was, dusted across the entire planet in a single layer, like fallout. Their conclusion sounded insane at the time. Something from space had hit the Earth. It took another decade to find the wound, a crater more than 100 miles wide, buried under the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, carved out by an asteroid somewhere between 6 and 9 miles across. The impact itself killed everything for hundreds of miles instantly, but the impact wasn't the real killer. What came next was, the collision threw so much rock and dust into the sky that it wrapped the whole planet in a shroud. Sunlight couldn't get through. And when sunlight stops reaching the ground, everything comes apart in order. Plants died first because plants eat light. Then the animals that ate the plants. Then the animals that ate those animals. The impact winter lasted years. In the dark and the cold, 3/4 of every species on Earth was erased. And the dinosaurs, the most successful animals the planet had ever produced, were gone. This wasn't a war they lost. This was a world that simply switched off. So why are you here? Why did a rat-sized nobody survive an event that killed creatures the size of buildings? The answer is almost insulting. They survived because they didn't matter. Being small in that exact moment was the single greatest advantage in the history of life. A small animal needs almost nothing to live. A tiny mammal could get by for weeks on seeds, insects, and dead matter, the scraps that lingered in a frozen world. It could burrow underground where the killing cold couldn't follow. It could hide and wait and eat almost nothing and outlast the end of the world. The giants starved. The nobodies burrowed. Everything that made a dinosaur magnificent, its size, its appetite, its dominance, became a death sentence. And everything that made your ancestor pathetic, its smallness, its hunger for almost nothing, its whole life spent in hiding, became the reason it lived. This wasn't strength, this was smallness. And smallness saved us. One of those survivors was a little creature scientists call Purgatorius. It looked like something between a mouse and a squirrel. And it is one of the earliest members of the group that would, over the next 66 million years, become primates. Become apes. Become you. Everything you are was riding on that animal getting through the dark. Which brings us back to the question, the one paleontologists actually argue about. What if the rock had missed? Rewind 66 million years. Nudge the asteroid a fraction of a degree. It sails past the Earth and disappears into the black. The sky stays clear. The sun keeps shining. And the dinosaurs, who had ruled for 165 million years and showed no sign of stopping, simply continue. There is no impact winter, no mass extinction, no empty world left behind for anything to inherit. So the mammals stay exactly where they were, small, nocturnal, hiding, for another 66 million years, maybe forever. In that world, there is no ape, there is no human, there is no you. The most important animal on Earth still has scales and a tail. But here's where it gets genuinely unsettling, because underneath that question is a darker one. If mammals never got their chance, would something else have taken it? Given another 66 million years, could the dinosaurs have become intelligent on their own? In 1982, a paleontologist named Dale Russell asked exactly that. He'd been studying Troodon, a small, slender predator with large eyes, grasping hands, and a brain for its body bigger than almost any other dinosaur. Russell ran a thought experiment. What if that lineage had kept getting smarter, the way ours did? He built a model of what it might have become and called it the dinosauroid. It stood upright. Large skull, forward-facing eyes, 3 fingers on each hand, no tail. It looked disturbingly a little like us. Most scientists think Russell's exact creature is a stretch, but the idea underneath it survives, and it's the uncomfortable one. Intelligence might not be a human invention. It might just be a door, and any lineage given enough time and pressure might walk through it. In the world where the asteroid missed, the thing that walked through wouldn't have been a primate, it would have been a reptile. Civilization, if it came at all, might have been built by something with claws. But here's the part almost nobody thinks about. The dinosaurs didn't actually die, not all of them. One small branch of them, a group of light, feathered, bird-like dinosaurs, made it through the asteroid, and their descendants are everywhere. They're outside your window right now. Every bird alive today, every sparrow, every pigeon, every chicken on every farm is a dinosaur, not related to dinosaurs, not descended from something vaguely dinosaur-shaped. A dinosaur. There are more than 10,000 species of birds on Earth, more than there are species of mammals. So in a strange way, the dinosaurs never really lost their planet. They just got smaller, quieter, they learned to fly, and they have been watching us the whole time. Now, the honest version of this story is messier than one rock. Around the same time, the asteroid struck, on the other side of the world. Enormous volcanoes in what is now India had been erupting for hundreds of thousands of years, filling the air with poison and pushing life to its edge. Some scientists think the dinosaurs were already failing, and the asteroid was just the final shove. Others think the asteroid did nearly all of it by itself. That argument still isn't settled, and maybe in some other version of history, mammals would have gotten a different opening eventually. Another disaster, another empty world, another roll of the dice 100 million years down the line. Maybe. But that isn't what happened. What happened is that everything you are traces back, along one unbroken thread, to a single afternoon, and to a creature the size of a rat that lived through it by hiding in the dark. So go back to the room you're sitting in right now. The one full of things that only exist because a species clever enough to build them exists. None of it was promised. There is no law of nature that says a planet has to produce something like us. For 165 million years, this one didn't. It made dinosaurs, and it seemed perfectly happy to keep making them forever. You were never the goal. Evolution was working toward. You are the aftermath of a catastrophe. 3/4 of all life on Earth had to die so that a terrified, insignificant little animal in a burrow could crawl out into an empty world and, over 66 million years, slowly become you. Every human who has ever lived, every face you have ever loved, every word ever spoken, all of it grew out of a mass grave 66 million years deep. The dinosaurs never saw it coming, and we almost never came at all. We owe everything to the worst day in the history of the world, and most of us will go our entire lives without ever looking up and wondering how close that rock came to sailing right past us and taking every one of us with it before we ever had the chance to exist.